Hi, people. So, a few things that I've noticed in videos where I use the whiteboard. People pick up that I'm a left-handed person. And I am. I'm a lefty. And I'm proud of being a lefty. Even though, not that long ago, I would have potentially got whooped for being a lefty. I would have had numerous things happen to me for being left-handed, and I would have been forced to be a right-handed person. But I'm glad I'm a left-handed person, and I'm very proud of it. And tonight, we're using the board to try to figure out who is rightfully the MVP in the league right now. Because there's some interesting stories here, and I'm not going to put them all. I'm not going to put them all in a list like normal, because there's a reason for this. So you have Connor McDavid. McDavid's in the mix. He's top 5, right? Crosby. Crosby's put up tons of points. It's been fantastic. Brent Burns putting up a fantastic season for the San Jose Sharks. He's been amazing. He's been great. Braden Holtby in Washington. They're potentially the #1 team overall. So Holtby's got to be in there, right? Oh, wait. Cam Talbot's in there for Edmonton, too. There's even some debate about where McDavid fits in and whether Talbot might actually be the MVP. So, yeah, we've got all this going on. And no, you can't. No, what was that? Yeah, he's tied for #2 in scoring right now in the NHL. I don't like it either. But without him, Boston is done. Tuukka Rask has not put up great totals this year. You look it up. He was great early in the season. He's been really kind of average lately. And I don't like it either. Devin Dubnyk in Minnesota. Why not? Hell, if you want to talk about Minnesota, I've mentioned this guy before. You want to talk about MVP for Minnesota? Ryan Suter's the MVP in Minnesota. What's that? Yep. Patrick Kane. You could make an argument for Patrick Kane in Chicago, and you'd probably have a very sound reason to name Patrick Kane in Chicago. Kind of a mess, huh? Kind of a giant mess. And I don't know that it's going to get any clearer. Because if you look at a team that's just, on the edge of the playoffs, you got Tavares. Tavares deserves at least some discussion. Since Doug Weight took over, John Tavares has been an MVP level player. Absolutely. So this is just, just spitballing who could win MVP. And then in Columbus, you would think at least some thought would be given to Bobrovsky. So that MVP, that sure is a mess, isn't it? I mean, when you look at who the MVP is, and I could add other names. I could add plenty of other names. Easy. Carey Price for Montreal. Montreal fans would agree with that. If you're going to get Toronto into the playoffs, Austin Matthews. So, Coach is going to be easy, right? Because you got, I almost spelled that wrong. You got Babcock in Toronto. He's up there. You got Boudreau in Minnesota. He's up there. Though, something is to be said for guys who take over in the middle of the season, like Cassidy or Claude Julien, or Columbus went on that really nice winning streak. And, hey, speaking of nice winning streaks, Washington. Or these guys were supposed to fall apart this year and they haven't. Vino in New York. He go there. Hey, or don't look now, but they're back in the playoffs when they were left for dead. Doug Waite. Maybe Doug Waite's in that conversation. I would hate to have to vote on these awards this year. I really would, because always going to be somebody else. There's always going to be another coach to add to this list. Another guy that you look at and say, either the team turned it around under this guy or the team played great under this guy. So those are the only crowded awards, really, right? Yeah. See, all season, when I've been asked about rookies, those are the three names I've given. He's inserted himself into the picture. But there's another kid that's inserting himself into the picture, whether people realize it or not. Real deal. Absolutely. And there's this goalie in Pittsburgh who deserves consideration, and it's been said he's not viewed as a rookie because they won the Stanley Cup last year, so some people may not vote for him because they may not realize he's actually still a rookie. It's a compliment. They said it was a compliment, and I agree it's a compliment. But it says something for the depth in the NHL that this kid's special, this kid's special, this one's special, special, special. There's no one on this board that I look at and say, well, he's gonna be a good player his first year and then it's gonna tail off. Or these guys have peaked this year and they're probably where they're going to be the rest of their careers. And that happens. There's rookies who come in. I think of Tony Amonte, guy who came in, played really well, very good rookie back in the day for the New York Rangers, and he stayed at that level. He had some fluctuations along the way, but he stayed at that level. What are we looking at here for for ceilings? Matthews, I would think you're looking about 90 points, probably about 40 goals. Werenski's gonna be in the Norris conversation at some point in his career, I believe. Lenne's a 50 goal scorer waiting to happen. Uh, Matt Murray's a Vezina winner at some point in his career. Sebastian Aho, I wouldn't be surprised if he ends up getting a Rocket Richard Trophy at some point because that kid has got hands. And Marner, well, I wouldn't be surprised if he ends up winning an Art Ross before he retires. And there's other rookies. There's other people right now mentioning other rookies watching this video. And you know what? They'd be right. I'm just using the biggest names. So we've got a cluster for Hart, and we've got a cluster when it comes to coaching. We've got a cluster when it comes to Calder. So the Norris belongs to Burns. Brent Burns, hands down. Erik Karlsson might be having the best season of his career. Ryan Suter is a beauty. Any of these three guys could win the Norris tomorrow, and I could not argue against it. I really couldn't. I mean, hell, if you're going to talk about defensemen having good seasons, I could put Chara's name up here. Chara's been fantastic the second half of the season. Zdeno Chara is back to being Chara again. He's not in this conversation, so don't leave nasty comments for me. But if you will, anyways. But this is not. He should win it because he's in the MVP conversation. But don't underestimate Carlson, a three-time winner, and don't underestimate Suter, who Minnesota isn't where they are without Ryan Suter, which is why maybe he's the MVP for Minnesota. There are some interesting conversations to be had when it comes to these awards. For instance, Leafs fans will tell you anytime that they talk to you that Nazem Kadri is now Selkie, 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 Selkie. But Kessler and Bergeron have been fantastic. Bergeron's been better lately. Kessler's been consistent. His point totals seem to have leveled off. Kadri may actually be too offensively minded to really fit into the conversation with these two. I think these two have the inside track. But wait for next year when a new name gets into the Selkie conversation. Wait for it. Because Bo Horvat has the skill to do it. And there's this other guy who, with the totals he's putting up right now, with the way that Chicago's playing, Taves is going to insert himself into the conversation. Absolutely, Taves is going to insert himself into the conversation because you can't not notice him. There's no way you don't notice Taves. My biggest problem when it comes to the Selkie Trophy is all of these guys score too many goals. When the Selkie Trophy first came out, it was Bob Gainey's. Bob Gainey was not a goal scorer. Bob Gainey could score goals, but that's not what got him to the Hall of Fame. It was his ability to play defense. It was his ability to shut other forwards down. And when I look at Selkie winners and I look at Selkie nominees now, I don't see defense as much as I see guys who can score goals and prevent them at the other end. It's a two-way forward award now. It's not the same thing. And that's evolved over time. It's sort of like, to me, the Norris Trophy has turned into something else. It used to be best defenseman. Now it's whichever defenseman scores the most points has a very good chance of winning it. They don't win it all the time. There are exceptions. But the defenseman that puts up a lot of goals and a lot of points, if he has a decent plus minus and he has decent possession numbers, he's very likely to win the Norris. And then there's reputation. Nick Lidstrom is remembered for all the Norris trophies he wins. But what's easily forgotten is that Nick Lidstrom was the best defenseman in the league for years before he started winning Norris trophies. Because he had to wait until the old guard got out of the way first. And I think that still happens to some extent in the NHL. I think the NHL, though, has grown so young, and it is a young man's game more now than ever. Outside of maybe the early 80s, when uh, they had the WHA expansion and the Oilers came in and all these kids came in, there were so many young kids that came in, and it made some of the NHLers who were in their early 30s look really slow by comparison. But, if I had to handicap it right now, so if I had to handicap for the Hart, I honestly think McDavid wins it. If I had to handicap the Calder right now, I think Matthews wins it because he's a center and he's playing for the Leafs. Lanne's going to score more goals, I believe, but Matthew. Norris goes to Burns. Vezina, which I didn't put on the board because there are not very many people that are in there. I think it's going to go to Holtby, and I think some Wild fans are going to be upset when it happens. But Braden Holtby is just, his numbers are scary. And I get it. He's playing behind Washington's defense, which is fantastic, but his numbers are just so gaudy. I can't see how he doesn't win it. The Adams for Coach of the Year. This one's kind of tricky, but it's probably... See, and I know Oilers fans are still mad at me about McClellan because I didn't have him up there with the Coach of the Year. But I do think Coach of the Year. I think McClellan gets nominated, and I think Coach of the Year goes to Boudreau. Oh, wait, let me move this away here. There. The Art Ross. I think Crosby's going to come forward and get it. I think he'll charge through and win it. The Richard Trophy. I think is going to be Crosby's as well. And then the Selkie Award. I'm honestly going to say that based on his reputation and the fact that Boston's been so much better lately, Bergeron gets it. I think Bergeron wins the Selkie right now. But it's tough because, none of these are, I mean, Art Ross and Rocket Richard nobody votes on, so that's just whatever. But this is not an easy call to make here. There are so many moving parts. There are so many players who belong in the conversation for Hart, Calder, for all of them. And it's funny because in the past, and I'm not talking about 15, 20 years ago even. I'm talking about just not that long ago. By this time of the year, you're pretty sure who's going to win these trophies. There's a goalie who's having a particularly great season. There's a player who's clearly the MVP of the league. And usually there's a rookie who's running away with it. You're going to have a couple of awards. The Selkie usually is up in arms. And I know I didn't have the Lady Byng on there, but that's because I don't care. The Lady Byng is for gentlemanly play. And at one point in time, the Lady Byng was given out to the guy who should have won the Hart and didn't. So they give him the Lady Byng as sort of a consolation. At least that's the way people saw it. But it's just for gentlemanly play. And I don't really see it as being a major award. All right. That's my view on the current status of NHL awards. I'd be interested to know what you guys think. I think it's going to be a fierce fight right down to the end, just like the fierce fight for the playoffs. Don't forget to hit like and subscribe if you're browsing your way through. We're on the weekend now. I'm doing my best to stay awake. I am so bloody tired. So tired. But this is fun stuff to talk about. I'm going to do another video about hitting because I think there's a conversation to be had here. Hopefully we can keep everything civil and maybe come up with some kind of agreements on hitting and on what is or isn't and what should or shouldn't be legal. And I'll give my opinion, and then you guys will have the whole comment section on there to discuss everything. This comment section, awards. Who do you like? Who do you not like? Who did I not put on the board that you feel has had a tremendous season? And I'll tell you right now, you're right. Because there are so many players. Like, I could have filled this whole board up in terms of almost any award. So I'm just trying to go with who I think is most likely to win it. And the Hart is not going to be easy. There's not going to be a landslide winner, I don't believe. Unless everybody votes for McDavid or everybody votes for Crosby, I don't see a landslide winner. But again, let me know what you guys think. Thanks for watching, and I'll talk to you all again soon.